I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to get it. Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. I am your host, the Mayor Jeff Hornacek. This is episode 159. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we get started with the movie discussion, as is tradition, we must go around and meet the fellow bro. Tonight, it is the American hero, Nate Thurmond. Nate, in the 5 years of the pod, or soon to be 5 years of the pod, how many beers do you imagine you've drank while on the show? Rough estimate.
Whew, that's a lofty number. I don't even know if it even sniffs the amount that Andre the Giant would used to drink in one night, but I like to see myself as a Renaissance man, and I like to say I've drank more than just beer on the pod, so I mean, I probably drink every type of alcohol we can through movie reviews and just regular pods, wine, seltzers, beer, whiskey, whatever. Just throw it at me. I'll throw it in my gullet.
I would guess, and there's probably a lot of candidates for top spot, the New Year's Eve movie commentary we did on Jurassic Park might be some of the drunkest we've ever been on pod.
That was a solid one, and hopefully we can get an in-person review in the near future, because those are always the best.
Yes. I believe I won't spoil the quote for you, but if you go back and listen to that commentary, I still think to this day it has the funniest quote ever on the Bro 4 Squad.
Yeah, and it's probably got a couple other top teners in there too.
You'll know it when you hear it.
Yeah, it's a no doubter. Kobe.
Like when Adam Dunn actually connects with the ball, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't even need to look at that
He's
one."
like, "Oh, I actually still have to run the bases."
Technically,
yes, this isn't a rec league softball game. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't want to do that, so just count me out. All right, we begin every episode on the Bro 4 Squad with the most important thing in any bro's life, and that is chest day. And as this is being recorded, we're exactly 20 days away from the 5-year anniversary of the Bro 4 Squad. So our podcast turning 5, basically it would be starting kindergarten, back to school shopping, and finding the right Capri Sun to pack in its lunches has already happened. So Nate and I decided tonight to give you a little sneak preview of what we're going to be doing on episode 160, or our 5-year anniversary pod, which will be the beginning of the countdown of all 5 of the bros' top 100 movies lists of all time, which we've been putting together for about the past year, but really it's been curated throughout our entire life. So tonight, obviously, we're not going to give you any of the top 100 yet, because we have to tease you, keep you coming back, tickle the balls. But we are going to give you a little sneak peek of both what we discovered while putting our lists of the top 100 movies in our lives together, as well as maybe a few movies that just missed the list, and just some overall thoughts of that process. So, Nate, I guess before we get started, your overall thoughts on putting this list together, and it's kind of an exercise in self-discovery, I think, going back through the movies, new and old, and just sort of seeing where they rank on your own personal list and how much you enjoy them.
Yeah, it's been a fun time. And Horns kicked me in the ass the other day and texted me, was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, I'm procrastinating, haven't done much on it. So really past couple days have been kicking into gear, and once I actually started getting into it, it's been a blast, and it's been quite the discovery of finding like movies that you hadn't thought of in a while. And this isn't going to be your IMDb top 100 classic list. We're going to have a mix of comedies, thrillers, all types of shit, all across the board. And what's in my top 10, good chance it's not going to be in any of the other bros' top 10, but it's just whatever is personal to you. And maybe at the time of your life, you watch this, it hit home. I don't know, for some reason. But I mean, it's going to be all over the place. And putting this together, I've already seen like there's some movies above some other classic, just, good cinema, well written. I don't give a fuck. This movie means a lot more to me. It's going up in my top 10, or it's going above this or that. So it's been a lot of fun putting together so far.
Yeah, I think you probably described it best in saying, like, this is our top 100 movies of all time. It's not the AFIs. It's not the IMDb's. Like, I'll tell you straight up right now, The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 is not on my list. I understand they're great cinema, but when you see my top 100 list, it's the Horns top 100. Like, I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm not trying to sniff any film professor's butthole. Like, this is my favorite 100 movies of all time. And I think, as we always say, when Banner says he loves something ridiculous like Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which I would not be surprised if it somehow cracks his top 100. That's sick fuck. As long as you can defend it and its place on your list, like, that's the point of this, which I think was a really fun part of putting it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I get closer to closing this out, it's kind of tough. And I know we talked about this off pod. Like, there's some good movies that are going to get pushed out of the top 100, and it is what it is. I mean, there's definitely over 100 movies that I enjoy, that I like. So, I mean, it is what it is. They're going to be pushed out, and we're going to let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'm most looking forward to with this is the people that comment below on the YouTube video, like, "Are you fucking high?" To which Banner will reply, "Yes."
Yeah, kind of.
Simply yes. All right, so Nate, a few things I wanted to bounce around, and then obviously after this, anything that you think we're leaving out, please by all means bring it up. The first thing I thought would be fun would be to looking at your list, and again, we're not going to spoil what's specifically on it. This is more just our overall thoughts, just to kind of get excited and prepare for the reveal, which will take, probably a year in and of itself to count down to number one.
Yeah.
But what genre do you think is either most represented on your list, or maybe has the strongest representation in terms of how high some of these films rank?
Yeah, that's tough to say. And I know me and you are probably going to be the same in this, but there are, just right off the top, there are two comedies in my top 10 that probably wouldn't rank top in anyone else outside the pod's top 100. And then there's, just looking at this, there's 3 comedies in the top 50, actually 4 comedies in the top 15. But that is kind of the kind of surprise that may hit some people for just the top ranking ones. But overall, I mean, it's kind of all over the place. There's not really one genre that really dominates. I've got the thrillers in there, westerns in there, quite a few dramas. I mean, I can't even really pinpoint on what genre really dominates. It's pretty much all over the place. There's cartoons in here, so I mean, animated all over the place. Yeah.
Yes, animated.
Oh, I know one of your animated that'll be in there. So.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, looking at my list, I know one of them is probably the same. I have a comedy ranked very high on my list, and I also have, I believe, 4. Yes, 4 in the top 15. So,
and even after we get off pod,
same,
I don't want to hear it. It's not like we're putting on a show. Like, I don't want to know Horns. He doesn't want to know mine. We're not going to let each other know after this. So
yeah, that's part of the fun. So there's one, maybe not so much a genre, but a specific time period for film that I think is strongly represented on my list, and this might be the same with you, really just in terms of depth, and that would probably be the early aughts. And I think a lot of that is because that was, for us, kind of our coming of age period in life, right? Like, late high school, early college, we started to figure out who we were as people. And even though it took our wives, several years to catch on to it, that's really the foundation or the development of our comedic sensibility. Like, you and I quote these films to each other constantly, almost to the point where we forget that they're from a movie, I think, a lot of times. And those films are strongly represented on my list, both in terms of how high a lot of them rank and then just the sheer number of them that actually cracked my top 100.
Yeah, it's insane how second nature some of these quotes come, and like, I don't even. I mean, it leaks into other parts of my life, like at work or just with other people who don't know the back and forth that we usually do with this shit, and it'll just leak in. But a lot of people will get it. But yeah, it's just like comes so naturally because it's so ingrained in us. And yeah, from the early aughts, like I was just looking at mine. 5 out of my top 10 are from the early aughts, from that kind of range, from 01 to maybe 09.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to you on that one too, which is kind of crazy. When I was putting this list together, like, and a movie would start finding its way, bumping up my list, there were just a few staples at the top that I was like, you're not going to pass that film for me.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I just don't know what to tell you. All right. Next thing I thought would be fun to talk about. Any surprises on who, and obviously don't say the movie that made the list, but also any surprises on movies or that didn't make the list, or maybe even like a genre that when you looked back at your list, because I know I have one, I was like, maybe I don't like those movies as much as I think I do, or at least in the number or the quantity of film that I think I do. So anything that surprised you either way.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny you say that, because I'm a big Western fan, but there weren't as many Westerns as I thought were going to pop up on here. Maybe I need to go back and ingrain myself a little bit more into the Western scene. And some of them do start blending together. Some of the older ones, like The Good, Bad, the Ugly, that trilogy, and some of those older Western spaghetti Westerns and things like that, that are great. But not as many are popping up on here as I thought that they might be. But other than that, some ones that I'm still finishing mine out, so I know there's some at the tail end they're gonna fall off. There aren't too many at the end that are gonna fall off that I'm gonna be too disappointed with at this point. But depending on where I get in the next 20 days, there's actually one, and I know we've talked about this one off pod. It's sitting around the 80 mark, so there's a chance. There's a chance.
But you're
I would be
looking at it
disappointed if it got off.
Yeah, you're looking at it like, what are you doing here, bro?
Yeah.
Prove
Yeah.
it to me. One for a genre for me that I'm actually really surprised at how sort of underrepresented it is. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have told you almost unequivocally, this is my favorite type of movie. But superhero movies, actually, I think do not have as many on this list as I thought I would have on here. And I think it doesn't sound like this, but when you actually start putting together a top 100 list, it's really not that many movies. Like, I'm looking at movies in like the 100 to 150 range, and I'm like, I think I love this movie, but
yeah,
like, what's it gonna beat that's ahead of it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like with the superheroes, especially if you get into like the Marvel, or not really superhero, but the Star Wars canon, like, and moreover with the Marvel, you have like the anchors of the Marvel universe, and the ones that really add a ton of quality and a ton of depth to the entire movie series. And those are the ones that are going to make it. The others are still good movies, still movies you enjoy, but, and this is kind of demeaning towards those movies, but they're kind of filler for the whole Marvel universe. So just if there's like these big plot things that move the whole universe along, unrelated to movies, but kind of like Loki, which we mentioned in our reviews, like that's going to change the Marvel universe going forward. If that was a movie, that would be up there just because its impact on the whole Marvel universe.
For sure.
So yeah, I can see how a lot of those would fall out of the top 100, even though you enjoy them and they're great movies.
So my spreadsheet, and this is going to sound obsessive, but I have, that I know of, I've seen a total of 1,019 movies. So I have them literally ranked from my favorite to my least favorite. And a film like Ant-Man that I really enjoy, like if you said right now, let's put on Ant-Man, I'd be like, hell yeah. It is ranked 339 on my list.
Yep. That's what'll happen.
That's where you're like, I definitely don't have a bad thing to say about Ant-Man, but it's not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very telling.
Ant-Man is right ahead of Fast and Furious 6. Little spoiler.
I can only imagine the Fast and Furious sprinkled throughout yours.
They're all over the place. Maybe one will crack an insanely high point in my top 100 list. That's just another little tease there.
Yeah.
One other one I wanted to ask you, and again, I know you're kind of finalizing yours, so this might be impossible for you to answer, but is there any movie that's either like a guilty pleasure, but to the point where like, okay, I'm not that enjoyed, or I'm not that enthused by it, or something that you're like, man, I just really want to squeeze this in the top 100, but it's not going to happen. It's like the kid you have to cut at tryouts, but you're like, but we really like you, man. Do you want to be like the team manager or something? Who's your movie team manager, I guess, if you have one?
Oh, do you want me to say the name of the movie?
If you want to save it for
because I have one.
Yeah, lay it on us. If it's not going to make the list, I think it's fair game, right?
I don't think it will. I may just
if,
looking at it.
If it has a chance, then don't spoil it. But
I won't spoil it. But yes, there is one, and it's a rom-com, and you probably know what it is.
Oh, I know exactly. How's that not on here?
I know. It's kind of flirting out there, and it's a movie that the wife doesn't even like, and she thinks it's stupid, and she's stupid for saying that.
I think no Nate Thurman top 100 list would be complete without that film.
Okay.
Went up on it somewhere.
I mean, I could easily be persuaded to put that in there because I was thinking about it. I was like, man, yeah, it's just one of the, like I said, it's like one of those ones that it just means a lot to you. It's in your heart. So I mean, it's your top 100. You do whatever the fuck you want with it.
Exactly. And this movie, like if you just say the name of the movie around Nate, he'll smile, which is why I think it's like the garnish on your drink. It has to be in there, even though it doesn't really do much.
Yeah, and it's super random movie, and I don't even know. It's tough to say. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do. But I do. It's a great flick.
Yeah. It's one of those movies I'm actually almost afraid to rewatch because I'm like, what if I don't like it when I rewatch it?
There's some less than virtuous themes in it, just between the characters, which can turn people off. Which they do some shitty things in the context of the plot, but overall, I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
We'll save
me,
that for the top.
Yeah, that'll be it has to be in there. I hope it's in there. For me, the movie that I really wanted to squeeze in there, but I just couldn't justify it. Like, again, there's nothing ahead of it that I could bump down, and that is Hardball with Keanu Reeves.
Not making the cut.
No, I love me some Keanu. We all love the Cucumbas and G Baby.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I actually ever heard the song Big Papa. Kind of enjoy this. But I just couldn't crack the list. But I wanted to give it a shout out here because I think it does deserve some love. And we did a movie commentary on it. It's one of my favorite films, but not my top 100 favorite film, unfortunately.
That'd have been one of the early ones for Michael B. Jordan.
Oh yeah, that had to have been his first movie, right? He's like 7 in it. I totally forgot about that. Last thing I wanted to ask, and then of course anything you wanted to talk about. If you had to describe your list in a few words, what would you say about it to someone?
Just kind of a brief description would be diverse minus horror. Just because I don't like scary movies, so there aren't going to be horrors on here. And there are some thrillers. There's some that are, I'd say borderline horror, but not really. I'll stick with thriller on those. Just because I don't like being scared.
I don't either. And I do love. It's funny because I love horror movies, but I hate horror movies. If that makes sense, it's like the literal definition of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
You having teased that though, I'm incredibly excited to see what thrillers make your list because for them to sort of transcend, maybe not the genre because they can be, very different from horror, but something that's that intense of a film, for it to still crack your list, it must be pretty good.
Oh yeah. There's one specifically I'm thinking of and looking at right now that, definitely a well-made film. I want to talk about him right now, but I know close the door a little bit. But what about you? What about your list?
I guess the way I would describe my list is half about my list, half just about the process of doing this. So I would say I think that this was just a great exercise in sort of, I don't know, this is going to sound super dramatic and emotional, but like kind of reliving your life, right? Like it's weird how many of these films I have like distinct memories associated with them. And I know it can be kind of a lengthy process. Like we've actually been working on this, I think, for about a year. But if you're listening at home and you're like, I've always wanted to do this, but I haven't actually sat down and started to do it. I think Nate said it perfectly off the top. It is really fun to do. Like, even if you don't think you're a huge movie fan, I think you'll be shocked at like how many movies you have some sort of memory or experience associated with. Like, there's a movie on this list that I don't think is a great movie, but you and mine's freshman year dorm floor went to go see it together. And for some reason, it was like our first outing as a dorm floor, like the first week of freshman year of college.
Wow.
And for some reason, I've just always had like a fond memory of this film.
I've got a few floating in my head. I don't even know if I know what it is. I have a few ideas, but I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. When I bring up the story, you'll definitely remember.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think that's the great part about this. It's like it's probably half about movies, half about the stories behind them.
Oh, for sure.
So, all right. Anything else you wanted to bring up? I mean, it's tough because this is making me want to start the countdown, but we got to you.
No, that's about it. Yeah. If I tickle my balls anymore, I'm gonna just explode all over the place. So,
I think just for fun, I'm going to count down my 103, 102, and 101 movie. And I know your
Let's
list
hear
isn't.
it.
Okay, so my 103rd ranked film, and I guess me saying this on pod now means that none of these can move. So it's kind of good because this will be me locking it in, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
My 103rd favorite movie of all time, after much deliberation, is Tropic Thunder.
That one, as I've sat here the past few days, it's popped into my head. I'm not going to say where it's at or if it made the list yet, but it's a solid flick.
I mean, there are some moments in that movie that are maybe the hardest I've ever laughed in a theater.
And for coming out, what do you know when that movie came out? Perhaps
it was 6 months after or 8 months after Iron Man, so probably 2009.
Okay. But even coming at that time, like Robert Downey Jr. going like full blackface and like some of the jokes they're making, and Ben Stiller playing a mentally challenged person. I mean,
yes,
yeah, it's
it doesn't age well.
Pretty racy stuff.
It doesn't age well. Yeah.
And also, I thought Tom Cruise's character was Paul Giamatti for 90% of the film. So there's that.
I don't know if Paul Giamatti should be flattered or like, hold up. Bro.
Yeah, I don't know.
One of my favorite lines, because it's absolute nonsense and makes no sense, is Danny McBride, and probably the first thing I ever saw him in as the demolitions expert, when he mistakenly like sets off all of the explosions for that stunt and literally just yells, "Big ass titties."
Yeah, no sense.
Like, what are you talking about?
That's amazing.
If nothing else, if you just have like 5 minutes at home, just go back and watch the first 5 minutes of that movie because it's all the trailers for the other movies that those characters.
It's good stuff.
Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire in Satan's Alley about two gay priests. My number 102 is The Replacements with Keanu Reeves.
Oh wow, Keanu making another appearance.
So he's sort of always a bridesmaid, never a bride with my list.
Yeah, and he's just a good dude. It's good you're throwing some honorable mentions out to him.
Yeah, we did a commentary on The Replacements, and it's one of those movies where it's like, it is so flawed, even in terms of a sports movie. Like, there's just not much there. But when you go back and rewatch it, there's some good laughs.
Yeah.
And my number 101, and God, Nate, I wanted to put this one in my top 100 so badly. It is one of our favorite films, and a very recent movie as well, Palm Springs.
That's a tough one to kick out because, it's a really great film, and I usually don't watch movies twice in such quick succession, but when that came out, I watched it like twice in the first like month or two. It was so good, and it's one of those cool ones that you can, even though at the end of the day, it's a comedy. There's things that you can pick up on just because of the plot synopsis that you can pick on watching the second time. It's kind of cool.
You and I had a lot of really good drunk theorizing about the film.
Oh yeah,
probably way more than even like the creators of the movie were thinking when they made it.
Oh, we got too deep on it.
And we did what we always do, where we like go to a random timestamp and like pause it to analyze some frame or something.
Talk for 10 minutes about 2 seconds.
Our wives are like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
It's 2 a.m.
I remember we did that with True Detective, and that's when I knew we needed help.
Yeah, it's okay. That's what this pod is for. This is our therapy.
Exactly. It's much healthier than a lot of other things we could do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I had. You ready to move on to our protein shake?
Let's get it.
All right. So the second part of our show, by the way, check out our next episode, our 5-year anniversary, where we begin the countdown. The next part of our show is our protein shake, where we go around and talk about what's in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. And Nate, perfect timing. We each have 6 things we've recently seen, and it looks like 1, 2. We have two of the same thing. So
yeah.
Why don't you go first? What's in your cup? What have you seen lately?
All right, yeah, let's start off with this one. This is a Amazon Prime series that actually started a while back. Kind of got off it, kind of got confused by it, to be honest. But then finally picked it back up on the second season, and that is Man in the High Castle. So this is a series based on a book. The overall theme is, what if the Axis powers won World War II instead of the Allies? So the United States is split up into basically three parts. The East Coast and to the Rocky Mountains is Nazi Germany, basically. Kind of around the Rocky Mountains is the neutral zone. So kind of no man's land. It kind of reminds you of like a kind of a Western atmosphere, kind of lawless. And then the West Coast, much of this series on the West Coast is based in San Francisco, is the Pacific states, but ruled by the Japanese. So once I heard the premise, it was something that really piqued my interest and just kind of a different take on history, which I thought was really cool. But there's also a little bit, not much of a spoiler, but a little bit of a sci-fi aspect to it as you get further into the series. And also, I was trying to think if this is a spoiler too, but not really. One of my favorite underplayed actors is in it, Stephen Root. So that's always good. Seeing him in anything.
Dude. Does it explain what went differently in the war? I'm assuming something with Einstein and the inception of the atomic bomb. What went differently that caused the Axis to win instead of the Allies?
It's kind of vague about that. But there is basically at the end of it, it kind of reverses the roles. Like the U.S. gets bombed by the Axis powers, just kind of like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it's kind of just reversing of the roles is basically what happens. But I don't think they go into too much I'm in the third season now, but I don't think they go into too much like very detailed description about how the war was actually won.
And do you know, because I've actually been kind of on a reading kick this past year, do you know the book where it ends versus like, is the show kind of like Game of Thrones where it right now it's past where the book ends and they're just kind of maybe winging it is the wrong word, but they're not working off source material anymore?
That's a great question, and I haven't even looked it up. It's only 4 seasons long, so I'm thinking they might be able to fit just the whole novel into it.
Yeah.
But I'm actually not sure. But it's a novel based on The Man in the High Castle, same name, by Philip K. Dick. If anyone's looking for that.
Okay, so I recently watched, and I'm not even going to really talk about this. I'm just going to tease it because we did a movie commentary on it. The 1974 film Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which is currently streaming on HBO Max. Brian Banner and I did a full movie commentary on it. Go check it out. And Nate, here's my sales pitch to you. Banner and I have we've never seen this movie before. As you know, when we do our commentaries, we have the subtitles on so that we can actually see what's going on. It did not have functioning subtitles in HBO Max. And it was a blind watch. So Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, basically we're just guessing the plot as the movie's happening. And I think we did a pretty good job.
All right. I'm going to have to go listen to that one now.
I don't think the movie lost us, if I can be honest.
It's pretty straightforward.
Although once aliens got involved, we've had to make some pretty crazy stabs in the dark, but I think we did okay.
Well, it sounds like a commendable effort.
Thank you, yes. There's like 10 of these movies from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s on HBO Max. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I think they're all good movie commentary candidates.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Just so ridiculous. All right, what else is in your cup?
So this one been out for a while, but recently I think actually popped up on HBO Max, which we've given shit for recently for their format and all that, but we keep coming back. We got good content.
Their app sucks. The content kicks ass.
Yeah. But Ready Player One, hadn't seen this one and saw it pop up. I was like, I need to watch this. Pleasantly surprised. Really fun movie. Cool kind of, not post-apocalyptic, but just futuristic. Maybe holding a mirror up a little bit to society with the VR. Just how everyone is living in it. Got a little Idiocracy vibe. Not a comedy in the sense of the word, but got a little bit of the Idiocracy vibe. from people just living in a virtual world and not giving a shit about much else. But overall, yeah, it was a really fun movie. I really enjoyed it.
I've been meaning to check this out too. I'm trying to think of the film I saw recently I was hearing a lot of comparisons, not so much in like plot or story, but like the emphasis on Easter eggs and how kind of like everything in our world is IP to Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
And sort of like the basketball game at the end and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know. This is apparently also based on a book, which I didn't know until like 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. But yeah, really, really good watch. If anyone's needing something, go to HBO Max and watch.
I'm intrigued.
What's next for you?
So I'm caught up, but I only want to talk about one of these tonight because Banner's not here, and I know he's been watching them. But you're not watching What If, right? The Marvel animated series.
Haven't jumped in on that one yet.
Okay. Well, I won't spoil this one too much, but this show is the last series of performances for Chadwick Boseman. He voices T'Challa in this in a couple episodes. Mm-hmm. And episode, I believe it's 2, yes, is What If T'Challa became a Star-Lord. And I think one of the things when this series was announced that intrigued me most was the actors that they got returning to voice roles for it. Like people that you never think would do a cartoon show are back in this. And without spoiling it, the premise for this one is Yondu and the Ravagers in Guardians of the Galaxy go to Earth to look for Peter Quill, and they detect a weird anomaly being Wakanda, and they assume it's the energy that Peter Quill, as the son of Ego, is giving off. And a young T'Challa, about 8 years old, stumbles outside of the barrier of Wakanda and gets abducted by them. And he essentially ends up growing up with the Ravagers and becomes a much more competent and well-respected Star-Lord. And the series follows his adventures, and he has actually been able to convince Thanos that his plot to kill half of the universe is misguided. And so Josh Brolin returns to voice Thanos, and he is a hero in the series.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Benicio del Toro is back in this episode. Michael Rooker as Yondu, Jaimin Hansu as Korath the Pursuer, Karen Gillan as Nebula. The whole gang is back in this one, folks. And to hear Josh Brolin voice a cartoon character, specifically Thanos, as a good guy was just pretty crazy. So,
yeah, I'm gonna have to jump in on those. You sold me on that. I mean, it kind of goes along with the Man in the High Castle, kind of a twist on what's actually happened.
Yeah, it was a fun one, and these are short, almost too short. This one I think was like 26 minutes. Because the concept is so cool, could have used a little more. And to hear Chadwick Boseman's voice again gets all the feels going.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got?
Let's see. This one was just randomly on, and I'll throw this out there. And I just stopped down on it. It was like 5 minutes in, and ended up watching the whole thing. But Doctor Strange, that was on, and I'd honestly maybe seen it. I'd seen it once, maybe twice, maybe 1.5 times. But it was good. I think the wife was doing something in the house, wasn't paying attention, so I was like, I'll throw this on, and it was really good to dive back into that and get his whole backstory and kind of see his development. But really enjoyed jumping back into Doctor Strange.
I always forget, and she returned in the most recent What If episode, but Rachel McAdams is in that movie.
Oh yeah, and of course the wife chimes in. Is that the girl from The Notebook? I'm like, yes, that's Rachel McAdams. She's performing surgery on Benedict Cumberbatch.
And Chiwetel Ejiofor in it. He's apparently returning for the sequel as Mordo, which is cool.
Solid. Yeah. But yeah, and one might make the top 100, might not. I don't know, but still a good flick. We'll see.
Wow, you sly dog. I think this is actually the last one I watched that either we don't share or that you probably don't have something to say about. But I finally watched The Suicide Squad on HBO Max. Again, shitty app, great content. We can all agree. Now, Geiger saw this recently, and he had mixed feelings about it. And I have to say, the stuff that worked in this really worked for me. Like, I tried my best to go in arms folded, not laughing at the jokes for some reason. I don't know why. I'm a pretty big James Bond guy. And Nate, I think about the biggest takeaway, and I'm a little mad at myself. I loved John Cena in this. He was fucking hilarious.
I mean, he can pretty much do it all at this point.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm a Cena head now. I need help.
Yeah, I need to jump in on that one. Obviously, with the first Suicide Squad leaving bad taste in people's mouths, it's kind of one that maybe people are hesitant to watch. But I'm glad you didn't completely hate it.
No, I think it was well worth the watch.
Okay.
Definitely worth the watch. I don't have too much to say about it because everything would pretty much be spoilers, be it like people who die or something that happens. And I guess the deaths are probably the main thing that you don't want ruined for you in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
But I think it was just, at this point, it's hard to see a superhero movie where they do something where you're kind of like, huh, I haven't seen that before. And I think there were several moments in the Suicide Squad that achieved that for me, which was good.
Solid. I'll jump on the last thing that I have that isn't a crossover. But this just recently, well, I say recently ended a couple weeks ago. But the first season of The Bad Batch, the animated series on Disney Plus, which did get greenlit. I can't remember if it was, I think it was kind of recently too, for a second season. So this was a really great series. A lot of people I may have said this on a previous pod, but they're calling it oh god, now my mind is blanking.
Like Clone Wars season.
Yes, Clone Wars season 8. Sorry.
Okay.
Wow, had a brain fart. But it was really cool. You got a little more deep dive into the Caminos, the alien species who are behind creating the clones, basically, and a little more insight into the clones and a little bit of the transition from the from the original version of the clones into the stormtroopers and kind of that transition there. So it was one of those things that it was a cool insight into one of maybe the blind spots in Star Wars that hasn't really gotten shown much yet. So that was one of the really big things I took away from it. And Omega, who is a clone in this, a young female clone, huge part of the story, the plot, and there's a lot more to her that I think will get impact and maybe impact the Star Wars canon overall.
Now, was this a shorter season than most of the Clone Wars seasons, or was it like the full 22 or so episodes?
A little shorter. I think it was 16. Yeah.
So I've been on a quest. I wanted to get more done in the summer, but I realize I'm watching a lot of shows right now. I started the Clone Wars, and I'm actually on the 21st episode of it. I usually watch like one every other day. So I'm trying to catch up to check this show out with you guys. Maybe it would be ambitious, but if I can get some damage done over the Christmas break, I might be able to get there for season 2, depending when it comes out.
Love it. Yeah, I think we got a little bit of time.
I'm digging Clone Wars so far. I mean, it's like just more time in the Star Wars universe, which is
it's good. It's good. There's quite a few filler episodes, but the overall information and impact you get from it is fantastic.
And even the filler episodes, like if it's just a random space battle, I'm like, okay, I'm fucking in. Like, blow shit up.
Still having a lot of fun.
All right, last thing I watched before we have our little crossover. And this is something you've been watching, but I know you're you're kind of where I'm at. You're stuck in the mud on this thing. High School Musical, the series, season 2. Now, before you're like, oh, Horn's just about to fucking bash this thing. Congrats, bro. No, I was a huge fan, unapologetically, of season 1. And I think like Nate and Banner, I started to watch it ironically, like, let's make fun of this piece of shit. And then 3 episodes in, I was like, what's happening with Ricky and Nene? Why aren't they working out? Like, I was pot committed. Season 2, however, and I think, Nate, you echo this, it is so far beyond teen angst that every character just needs to shut the fuck up, is where I'm at with it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand the environment we're in a high school, so high school drama and all that, but God, it just gets to be too much. And kudos to you for finishing it. I think we're probably 4 or 5 episodes out from finish it because we just haven't been able to get back on it, but we will. And I'll just kind of ask you this question: does it redeem itself any in the back half of the season.
So that's the one thing I can tell you is there is a little bit of hope here. The last
Okay.
3 episodes specifically feel a lot more like season 1, where it's a little more tongue-in-cheek and a lot less annoying.
Once
But
they get into the actual play.
correct. Yeah, the play
Okay.
stuff is actually good, and the musical stuff is actually good. But I am worried that they're just kind of putting a Band-Aid on this thing, and if I come back for season 3, it's going to be more of the same, and they kind of just pulled the wool over my eyes for the time being. But I think if you finish it, you'll have more fun the last 3 episodes than you have the previous 5.
Well, that's good. Then that means I have something to look forward to.
I just think Ricky is my least favorite character maybe in anything I'm watching right now, and
Yeah.
he kind of chills out the last 3 episodes, which is nice.
Okay, that's good to hear.
All right, last 2 we share, so I'll give you a dealer's choice, which you want to talk about first.
We'll do the one that I've watched 3/4 of first, so we'll leave the big one for the last. But Reminiscence, with Jack Human, or Hugh Jackman, as most people know him as, in the HBO Max movie that just recently came out. And I should probably look this up. I
First
can't
off,
remember her
if
name,
Jack
but
Human isn't a porn star out there, like what are we doing? We failed as society.
I say that because Tracy Morgan said that in an interview one time, or maybe it was from 30 Rock. I can't remember. They made fun of it. But yeah, Jack Human, that always makes me laugh. Maeve from Westworld, if you've seen that, she is in it. Don't have the name of the actress at the top of my head, so I apologize. But like I said, I watched 3/4 of it. I need to go back and finish it. It kind of lost me near the end. I got confused and was kind of questioning where I was at in the movie. So
Sure.
I would love your opinion on it.
So obviously I won't spoil anything for you, because I'm not really sure where you left off. But let me just put it this way: I gave Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla a 2 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and I gave Reminiscence a 1.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Okay, good. Then I don't feel so bad at being like, what the hell is going on?
And I remember watching this just thinking, like, Hugh Jackman, dude, you don't need this. Like, what the fuck are you doing? There's just so much extra shit in here that, like, with the story they're trying to tell doesn't need it. Number one, the setting, like this dystopian future completely adds not only nothing to the plot, but it distracts you because you're like, well, why is any of this happening? Because it seems to have nothing to do with the story outside of maybe the one piece of technology. And the second part, outside of Hugh Jackman and a few instances where Rebecca Ferguson kind of lucks into a fastball, I think the acting in this is atrocious.
So there is I don't want to be politically incorrect. Dang it. I mean, Chinese or Japanese gangster in it?
Sure. He's Asian.
Or Filipino, yeah, Asian.
Pacific Islander, something like that.
They one of the things that really drew me away from this, like his acting was not great, but they're like throwing in like whatever his native language, like those terms, and they're like within like the English, so it's like a mix, but like it just does not fit well, and they're trying to I don't know what they're trying to do there, but that was one of the things that kind of plays into the acting, other than Hugh Jackman is not great in it.
Yeah, and the other guy, Brett Cullen, who you might remember, he's actually the quarterback in The Replacements who Shane Falco like replaces, and he's also in The Dark Knight Rises. He's in a bunch of stuff. He plays a character in this, and he's typically like an outstanding character actor. And this performance is, I mean, it's brief, but it's kind of a pivotal role. And the dude, like, how do you even have a conscience and cast your paycheck for this kind of hustle?
Yeah,
it's like all the side characters are so bad, and normally you'd be like, okay, well, how important are those? Well, it's death by 1,000 cuts when 7 people that have like a 1 or 2 scene role in the movie are like so bad that I feel like I'm watching like a film student's movie. Then it gets a little distracting. And Hugh Jackman is great in it, but I mean, he can only do so much, you know?
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad we're kind of on the same page for that. So I'll probably go back and I might have to rewind like 20 minutes because I just got so lost trying to pick it back up.
That's where I was, and I'm gonna not blame myself for this, which is a douchey thing to do, but I don't think it's because I'm like not able to understand the movie. I think it's because I'm just so disinterested in the story that they're telling.
Oh, that yeah, I think definitely plays a part into it. Like I'm just not. It's not that I don't understand the plot or I can't follow. It's just I get disinterested and kind of just fall off the train at some point.
And they try so hard to make Rebecca Ferguson like insanely horny that I'm just like, this doesn't feel like a real,
Yeah,
real
yeah. Come
person.
on, get real.
And even Thandie Newton, I'm like, you're better than this. I've seen you better than this. Why?
Yeah, she wasn't. Yeah, I mean, she was better than a lot of the supporting cast, but not her fastball for sure.
And I don't know if you've gotten to the scene yet. I don't think this is a spoilers, but there's a character in it that has like a scar on his face that's like obviously done with prosthetics. And I just
Hmm.
saw him and started laughing. And you're supposed to take him very seriously. And I was like, I mean, what is this makeup?
Come on, bro.
Like it looks like you did it in the like you had your friend's little brother do it in the mirror, and then you're like, all right, let's just film it. No one's gonna fucking notice.
You got HBO Max money. You don't need to be cutting corners there.
Yeah. Last thing, speaking of HBO Max, let's actually
Damn.
crank the dial up to 11 because we've always said shitty app, great content. And Nate, although this one I don't think exactly stuck the landing, I think for the most part this might be my second favorite show of the year, or at least on HBO Max, behind Mayor of Easttown for me, which was a resounding hit. But The White Lotus, the limited series, I guess I would describe it as sort of a dramedy with Alexandra Daddario, Steve Zahn, Connie Britton,
Boobs.
Sydney Sweeney. uh, what did you think of The White Lotus?
Yeah, so this is one of those that I definitely agree with what you were saying. They might not stuck the landing, um, but man, the acting was great in it. The character development through across a lot of the different characters was really great, and I think that's really what this show was trying to be. There just wasn't a ton of resolve, and some of the things that did resolve weren't the way I wanted them to happen.
Yeah,
But I think with this one, that's kind of the overall theme is that sometimes in life, not much changes. Shit just happens. I think that's kind
yeah.
of what I was going with. It just left a little bit of bad taste in my mouth, but overall, I would highly recommend it just because the acting is so great. Like I said, the character development is great. There were just a few things that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, but still highly rated in my opinion.
And I think, and I feel like this is something we almost need to like follow back up on later because there's things I'm going to forget because I feel like you and I could talk about this show for a while. But I think one of the things I liked about it is that it is enjoying so much the fact that like you can't pin down what genre it is. Like, is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Is it a mystery? Like, what is it? It's a little bit of everything, and it's
Yeah.
none of the above.
Yeah, never. I think I just had described it to people. I've called it a dark comedy. That's kind of the one area it fit into me the best. But yeah, definitely agree. Definitely has a ton of mystery on it, and a ton of other aspects that you can probably throw in there.
And I don't think this is a spoiler because I believe it's literally the first scene of the series.
Yeah,
But
I
there's a
think I know where you're
character
going with it.
flying back. So the premise of the show is basically, I believe it's like four groups of people or main characters, all come for a week long vacation at a resort called the White Lotus in Hawaii. I'm not sure on which island. All coming from different walks of life or reasons to be at the resort. But the show actually begins with a scene from the end of the season or the series, I guess, where a character is flying back home from vacation and he's describing to another couple in the airport that someone died at the hotel and is being flown back. And kind of the whole series, you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who is that individual who
Hmm.
died? And it's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, that was kind of the main theme throughout the whole thing. There would be rifts or conflicts between two of the characters, and that's really how the Mike White, who is the writer creator of this, I think wanted to like fuck with your head the whole time. Be like, did this person kill this person? Oh no, hold on. This person killed this person. Wait, hold on. No, they actually just flop it. That other person killed them, and so that was kind of the whole thing. Like the whole series was going back and forth of who killed who.
And I guess real quick, without spoiling like what happens to any of these people, did you have a favorite character? Because I did, and although I hated this person a lot, I think
Well, I
Jake
think I
Lacey,
know.
who played
Oh,
Shane,
yeah.
I think this goes back to Adam Scott and Step Brothers. Like, I really love and appreciate a good performance of a douchebag. And I thought
He
Jake
played
Lacy as Shane was almost too good.
he played a good douche. Whenever you're setting it up, I thought it was actually going to be someone else, and honestly, probably my favorite character, which was Sydney Sweeney, who
Yeah.
played the teenage daughter of Steve Zahn. She was just so evil, manipulative,
So subtle. So
yeah,
fucking
and
subtle.
so subtle, and like the phrase "if a look could kill,"
Hmm.
she was the epitome of that. Gosh, she was just I don't know, and I did not like her. She was a manipulative bitch for most of the series,
Yeah,
but
and so
she played
manipulative.
it to a T.
I gotta say, another character, and who was just stealing the show for me every episode was Armand, played by Murray Bartlett.
I just think I fell in love with his accent. I just like he had a cool accent. I was like, I'm in.
The way he puts on the like fake voice for the guest. Yes, of course, of
Yes,
course.
of course. Yes.
And the second they leave, he's like,
Indeed.
motherfucker. Cursing under his breath. It really makes you
Completely
want to go to a
different.
resort and
Yeah.
like not be a
He,
dick to the help because they'll spit in your food or maybe do even worse. Who knows?
yeah. It's probably something good to think about.
So despite the ending, I would still recommend The White Lotus because I think it's just such a fun. And again, I
Same.
don't hate the ending. It's just like there's a few things with characters that I'm like, oh man, kind of wish that would have gone the other way. But so is life.
And yeah, just one thing to add on the end. I know I was reading an article after the final episode, but Mike White, who the creator, there's actually an article I read, and the headline from it is Mike White accepts the criticism. The White Lotus creator understands you feel conflicted about the ending. So does he. So he understands where anyone's coming from. So that's kind of cool that he owns that, and he's like, yeah, you might feel conflicted, but I still think it's a good season.
Yeah, respect. And I think, it's kind of the point of the show. And again, no, I won't spoil anything, but like it can't just end with everyone holding hands and eating
No.
lollipops, right? And it's not like depressing by any means, but it's life, like you said. Like it's not always
Yeah.
going to go your way.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, the last part of our show, Banner's not here to do the bird noise, but it is our Do You Even Lift Bruh segment, where we ask a question that we then subsequently answer, but more importantly, we leave you guys with it to comment below and give us your thoughts. And Nate, typically at this segment, I scroll through the news and find something that I think would upset Geiger and just try to get him on his soapbox. But this week I found something that kind of upset me, and I didn't even know that I was looking to pick this fight. Uh, and this might be a little bit of old news because the article that I found was dated August 17th. But let me just read you the headline and then a quick quote from the article. This comes to us from the playlist, and the headline is Barbara Streisand thinks Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born was, quote, the wrong idea and too similar to her 1976 version. Now, again, I think it's almost more fun to talk about this without the full context. So I'll just give you a quote that I selected from the article that I think is particularly inflammatory. Barbara Streisand says, according to the playlist, quote, referring to A Star is Born by Bradley Cooper, really make it different again. Different kind of music, integrated actors. I thought that was a great idea. So I was surprised when I saw how alike it was to the version I did in 1976. And I have to say one thing, Nate, before I get your opinion on this. Apparently, and this was news to me until I did a little bit of cursory research upon seeing this article, Barbara Streisand's movie wasn't even the original. Hers was a remake of A Star is Born. There was a version that came out, I believe, in the 50s. So she's now criticizing the, I guess, remake of her remake 35, 40 years later. What are your thoughts here? Am I crazy? Is Barbara wrong?
Barbara, how about you take off your white wig and get out of your ivory tower over there and stop judging?
Well, combined multiple Vince Vaughn quotes. Well played.
uh, yeah, I mean it's a remake. I mean, what more does she want? Did she not think it was going to be similar? I mean, if we're just going to change the roles of the cast and change the music and everything, we just call it a different movie at that point. Um, And Barbara, you have a 6.1 for that movie on IMDb, and the new one has 7.6. So I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves at that point.
Stats don't lie. I haven't seen the Barbara Streisand one. I don't need to. The Bradley
Yeah.
Cooper one is a better movie. So
Yeah.
I guess if you're second place, it's weird to criticize the person who just beat you. Also, this just seems odd to come from Barbara Streisand. Like, why take a pot shot at this movie? I don't really get it.
Yeah, what does she have to gain at that point? Nothing. It's several years after the movie came out.
I personally loved A Star Is Born. I don't know. Did you like it? Have you seen it?
Really enjoyed it. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't, and it's not that like Barbara Streisand. You know, I guess some reverence for her, but I mean, it's kind of an embarrassing look to be like shitting on this movie that was better than yours, and like you're not really relevant anymore. And I know that everyone's career has like an ebb and flow, a peak and a valley, and she's, the sun is setting, and that's fine, but don't go out like this, don't be that person.
No, don't be mad because Lady Gaga did better than you.
God, she killed it in that role, didn't she?
Yeah.
I think I might go blast Shallow right after this.
Love it.
Break the glass in my house. All right, Nate, before we let the people go for episode 159, and again, the next time they talk to us, we will be beginning our countdown of our top 100 movies and celebrating our 5-year anniversary as a podcast. What are your parting thoughts to the folks out there?
It's been a hell of a ride so far. It's crazy that it's been going on for this long. So, glad we can still do this and find the time to just get on here, bullshit with each other, and have a good time. So here's for at least 5 more years after this.
Yeah, my contract is an additional 5 years, so I'm obligated to be here for that.
Got him locked up already. Locked up.
Yeah, unlike Nerlens Noel, I actually signed the extension. He's at home.
It was a long negotiation process.
Yeah, both sides. Cycling, I think, really got the better hand on this one. I didn't read the fine print, but he laughed pretty hard when I signed it, so I think I'm fucked.
He knew you wouldn't. That's why he put it in there.
God damn it. He must work for Apple. Isn't there a South Park episode about them agreeing to like the Apple agreement?
Oh yeah.
It ends up being like
just we can the most ridiculous shit.
Oh God, good times. All right, for the American hero Nate Thurmond, I'm the Mayor Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Follow us on Twitter at Bro 4 Squad. If you type in Bro 4 Squad as 3 separate words on the internet, or Letterboxd, or Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or YouTube, or probably Pornhub, who knows what you'll find, but it'll probably be our content. And check out our website, bro4squad.com. Until next time, we'll see you on HBO Max's app, which doesn't navigate well, but fuck, they have cool shit on there.
Yeah. Speaking of apps, it's funny how just think of what have I been watching lately, and I go through Netflix, Hulu, what have I seen on there? That's just how my brain works now these days with streaming apps.
I have a couple that I don't know why I have them. I need to cancel.